o marang moula mayap aungil madangali arang ulubela
malungil sil morgumi kupno sa bedalt magara el altu tau etial program regida el anga tiasen regida el morgir ongem nuror reulubos tikal terul rubagal ngartial ubay dagal madalgel kamno dagal sabir temlo melulu tial program regida el anga gagid el ngara akatruga do mod ngelil wasing natuba da isel wasing buy kerbelam no ro rakwa mem no padrei eme meldingal mengalgu ngara katak peka guk padrera el ngara bangel ngarsil iglesia ra blura New Jersey ram digel ede emle alim main ma a Jennifer insist lo asen me do bangeleng ngaringa imora program ringin di mal soaleng nganga aldir ngarbet enggal bui ka sildo ka arab lilet mora angarbet maswal me merkom mobangkel mak magmeul asa ki momlas mloliu da igal toy leng maklor tutlel igal toy bolul koy tigang leng Kami ngai tial program rigi da on basada toram mondai matora abalatics malla oi indi elanga mal di murat toram iglesia mat mol togol gira klangar rigi makti muti agi del me timo shogara atirgal ad de mergoe momu so good morning and welcome home Father ASHTON and guest Father MANOEL.
Good morning.
Yeah. I was very disappointed with you last Friday when we were supposed to start, and then you say you have to go back because you have to pray for 1 hour, and we were a little bit over your time. So I told you, I said, the Lord comes first. You go and pray. So I'm so happy and glad that you came here. And a lot of people have been calling me why, the program didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So thank you for coming, and you're already a celebrity here. So we just go down to the basic of this program. Can you give you a chance to introduce yourself, and then and for him to introduce himself before we proceed.
Okay, I'm Father MANOEL Oliveira, originally from Brazil, but I serve the church in New Jersey in the United States, and I'm grateful to be here this morning with you to give a little bit of my experience of what the Lord has done, because what I do today is out of a grateful heart, because the Lord has saved me. And because He has saved me, I know that He has a word of eternal life to everyone. So this is glad to be here in Palau.
Yeah. I saw your last name, and it's Portuguese, so I've told people you're Portuguese, but I'm wrong. You're Brazilian, right?
Yeah, Brazilian, of Portuguese descent. My ancestors came from Portugal, but over 300 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Long time ago, because Brazil was colonized by the Portuguese. So most of us, we are of Portuguese descent.
I see.
Even though there are many Italians, Polish, Germans, many people from Africa, different countries in Africa, but mostly Portuguese.
That's a huge country, the biggest country in South America.
Yeah, it's half of South America, and most of the population in South America are Brazilians. Oh. South America has 13 countries, and there is Brazil, where they speak Portuguese. There are 9 countries that speak Spanish, and then there is one that speaks Dutch, English, and French. Small country, Guyana, French Guyana, and Suriname, and all the others, but the Brazilians are the majority.
I see.
Because of the size of the country.
Ngawai sila siya nga adra blura Brazil nga kotoklol blura South America mergong tirgel adra siya mo amla blura Portugal mo music ngi magklela ngakra Portugal hindi tigil el lulmel ngi aral angara wasingar edel dartrak ser alborse ngar se mlo padre. So now we come to you, Father ASHTON. His Brazilian ancestors went there 300 years ago. Your ancestor went to Guam only a few years ago. So you're still Palawan, not Guaminian. Okay, so tell us a little bit about yourself, and you have an incredible story, yeah?
Yeah, very good. So yeah, my name is Father ASHTON Wong. I was born and raised in Guam. I was ordained a priest 1 year ago in New Jersey. My father is Eric Anthony Wong, and my mom is Lillian Camacho. So yeah, my dad's side is from Palau, my mom's side is from Saipan, and they both met here in Guam. My grandparents are Miich and Antolina. So yeah, I mean, everybody knows my grandparents, so I'm beginning to know more the people, in reference to my grandparents.
Ali malungil tutaw swadal miisil guktor bela luase Father ASHTON nangalagel Eric Wong ma Lilian Camacho yadala lardi rasaiba lendi damal langalagel Antonina mami it's Wong ami it's tial baby rarwa former Vice President Sandra Pirantosi ma Ambassador Dilmay Olgaril baby rarwa ilabrang antiringi tigal lerwa Olga marwa Ivan Rarudi ma Miriam Rachin engang maldimlel me obligation ngi ma kaligar ngil Father MANOEL direk kamo buigar ngarbe de buigraira buigra blilio man swadal di share say tabi isi ngun masam ang culture lo pangget.
Okay. So tell us, I mean, the question that everybody asked me to excuse. How did you become a priest, and why become a priest?
Short version or long version? So I did not want to become a priest originally. When I was 18 years old, I was on my way out of the church. I said, when I am 18, I'm leaving the house, and I'm leaving behind my parents and everything associated with my parents, especially religion, because I blamed my parents, and I blamed God ultimately for not having a good life. I wanted to leave the church because I thought God had made a mistake in my life. I said, if God is so good as the people say He is, as they say in church, why is my family poor? When I was 13, I began working to pay for my high school tuition. I went to Father Dueñas High School in Guam, and my parents couldn't afford the tuition, and so I had to work. I worked full times in the summer, part time from like 3 in the afternoon to 9 in the evening, every day for 3-4 years. And I was deeply resentful because I said, if God is good, why are we poor? Why do I have to suffer? Why is my father not better? And so I thought I had to correct the mistakes that God made in my life. I said, if God made me poor, I have to make sure that we're rich. And my parents were saying, no, the most important thing is to seek Jesus Christ. And I didn't believe it because I didn't see Jesus Christ doing anything. I said, Christ isn't paying my tuition. I am. Christ isn't putting me through school. I am, right? Neither is my father. I said, my father's not putting me through school. I am. And so I threw my life in sports and school. And I was very good. I was extremely successful. This culminated in a basketball scholarship to Dallas University in the mainland U.S. And just to give an idea, I'm the only one of all the people that
only Palawan and probably Guaminian who's got a scholarship
that received a basketball scholarship to mainland U.S. Yeah, I think I'm the only one. But despite that, I was still, dissatisfied inside, because even though I did all the accomplishments, even though I was good at sports, I was still resentful towards my parents. Even though I was good at school, I was still resentful towards my siblings. So I saw that, I don't know, it didn't heal the heart. I was doing a lot of things, trying to be happy, but deep down inside, not happy. And it was in that resentment, in my violence, in my hatred towards my family, towards God, that God found me through the church. Someone visited my family, came knocking at my door. Missionaries knocked at my parents' door when my parents were on the verge of divorce.
Wow.
And it was there in our sin, in our mess, in our weakness, in our poverty, that God found us when we had nothing to offer. I certainly had nothing to offer God except my sins, my resentment. And God, through the neo-catechumenal way, which is now present here in Palau recently in the last couple years, through this charism called the neo-catechumenal way, it rebuilt the marriage of my parents. It gave me a new relationship with my parents. It helped me to ask them for forgiveness, to ask my brothers and my sisters for forgiveness. And this is ultimately what led me into the priesthood, not because I'm good, but because it gave me, I don't know, new life, which I didn't experience, and I didn't believe it until the funeral of my father. My father died at the end of 2014. He died on December 27. So you can imagine, we spent Christmas in the hospital. We buried him December 27. He died December 27, and we had the funeral on January 2nd. So
Wow.
Christmas in the hospital, and we welcomed the new year with the funeral of my dad. And the year my father died, I was still a very popular, successful athlete. My sister was Miss Guam. She was competed in a beauty pageant. She was a model. She had thousands of followers on Instagram. All the boys wanted to meet my
And
sister.
you were a basketball star, eh?
Fading basketball star.
And you were 6'3", eh?
6'3". Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
You're a tall
So-
guy, yeah.
So yeah, I was doing the sports. My sister was doing the modeling, and my brother, the one underneath her, was invited to represent Guam in the Olympics. All right. So my family, my siblings, and I, the things that we wanted to do, we were very successful at. We were very good at them. Now,
But you were financially poor.
yeah, correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we were all trying to do our way to get out of poverty, right? To be somebody, because our family in Guam is very obscure. Here we're somebody, but in Guam we're nobody.
So why didn't you join the military like many young people in Guam?
I don't know. It never appealed to me. The military wasn't anything appealing.
Oh,
but,
okay.
But yeah, at the funeral of my dad, despite all our success, none of my basketball buddies, none of my teammates, they didn't go to the funeral. My sister, all the boys that wanted to date her, none of them showed up to the funeral. Even though she has all these followers on social media, they didn't come to the funeral. My brother, who is going to represent the island in the Olympics, none of them came to the funeral. Not because they're bad. My friends are much better than I am. They're more generous than I am. They're more welcoming than I am. They were simply busy. But the one who was there for my family, the one who was there for me, when I needed an answer, was Jesus Christ, present through the church. And I discovered that what my parents tried to teach me in life, I learned in my father's death. That the one who gives an answer to death is Jesus Christ. But not just physical death, but the death we experience every day. The death of our resentments, the death of our inability to forgive, the death of suffering, the death of the things we don't accept. I saw that Christ gave an answer that sports, that popularity, that money, that success, it couldn't give an answer to. So that's why, I don't know, that's why I'm a priest today, because that's the only thing that's given an answer for me in front of suffering. And Christ is the only one who's given me a new relationship with my parents. He's made my family new. But I wasn't looking for it. I didn't ask for it. I was full of sins, and I wanted a life in the world. And God did it first. He intervened in a moment and gave my family a new direction through not magic, not at the snap of a finger, but through a way of faith. For my family, it was through the neo-catechumenal way. Why am I a priest? because of the neo-catechumenal way.
And if you had taken that basketball scholarship to US University, you must be a millionaire by now, because the basketball players, they make millions. Very interesting. Can you just kind of summarize this? He went.
Good luck.
Moses akpay goro olngit luase alsum ngayar adarabli miwel sorin mom dingel wasengang ngarang dilli ebay muktangan lo idil tor belaw ebay mal swada loreng sera alangkal at legumaral wasing mal kluabal gul sabe el inspire ngal gel belaw Moses ma kukal ngal gil ngar bitar til bol sab il maral lo idil tor belaw git pay doreng sa kung maral waser adal abay sorry loreng seringi
El abto ko lang ngalagyan. Tinggal dito badangan mo ra soldaw mamo. Kang amnor osisiul el teleta el blalbo ngam backload to tele. So thank you, Father, for that kind of long explanation. So she just decided.
Yeah, I decided that we bring people here to share, to inspire our listeners, and so I just asked if they have people who are near to them, they can translate into Palawan. But we would love to hear your story. I think it's very important in getting the message out. So I hope that's okay.
So, Father Manuel, so what's your story? Why did you become a priest?
Same thing. I did not want to be a priest. It was not in my plans. I was born in Brazil, and I was telling people here that the first time I saw the ocean, I was 23 years old. Because...
You must have been in the Amazon area. Huh?
It's like 1,000 miles from the Amazon, but also 800 miles within Brazil.
Wow.
Far away from the shore. And back then the roads were not too good. And I was born in a place, I was born home, and a place 4 hours away from the hospital. And the nearest paved road was 300 miles away.
It's like from here to Yap.
Yes, I don't know. Very,
That's about
far. But my mother got sick because she got into a little depression. And my parents decided to move to Brasilia. Brasilia was the new capital, built out of scratch. And back then, imagine, I was just 6 months when they moved. Brasilia had lots of problems because imagine people from all over Brazil came to build the city. There was a lot of problems with drugs already, prostitution, violence. I remember going to school, I was just 4 or 5 years old, and seeing people dead in the streets because it was a very, very violent place. And I said, where is God? As I was growing up, my parents would bring me to church. The priest would say, God is good. But I said, God is not good. Look at the situation. My mother is sick. My grandmother is sick. Look at the violence. Then poverty. And I decided that in order to be happy, what I needed was to have a good job and a good career. And I got a scholarship to study with the rich people, which at first was good. But when you study with the rich people, there is a problem because there is envy, right? Resentment. So once I finished high school, the school hired me to be a tutor to help them because I was one of the top students. And when I got my first check, it was more than my parents together. The check, I was making at 19 more money than my parents together. They both worked in a hospital. I said, I felt good, but if you make more money than the parents, who corrects you? So later on, I did not move out of the house because I was kind of lazy. If I move out of the house, I have to cook. I have to take care of myself, wash my clothes and everything. And here in the house, I was very comfortable. I'm the oldest of 8. And little by little, things were going okay. I got a scholarship to finish my PhD in mathematics in England, which for a Brazilian was huge. For me. And before going there, I was in a crisis, and I was visited in my house too, like Father ASHTON said. And people announced to me when they knocked at my door, God loves you the way you are. I said, I never heard this before. First they said, peace be with you. And I was not in peace that day because I had many doubts what to do. I was angry at my boss. But that I somehow calmed down. And I started to go to the meetings that they had of the New Catechumenal Way. And little by little I saw a light. And later on, when I was about to move to England to finish my PhD in mathematics, because I started teaching in high school and then I was teaching in college. So I went to a retreat, and in this retreat there was a priest there. He said, listen, let us listen to you. I said, Father, you invited me to this retreat not to talk, but just to listen, because it was a fantastic meeting. That was my birthday. So he asked me, how old are you? I said, well, I'm turning 26 today. An applause. And then he was listening to me, asking me questions. And then all of a sudden he said, don't you think that God is calling you to become a priest? Out of the blue. I said, me, a priest? Yeah, because that's how the Lord calls. Why would you say no? I said, first of all, because I'm very busy. And then he told me, listen, do you think God calls those who are not busy? He doesn't want bums, or he's calling you because he gives you options. He says, he gives you the possibility to get married. He gives you the possibility to go to England to finish your PhD. He gives you the possibility to teach high school or college here in Brazil. And he gives you the possibility to go to the seminary to become a priest. Because if you enter there, you enter freely. And then he told me, sin, on the other hand, doesn't give you options. Once sin catches you, and I've seen these people with addictions, with difficulties in sin, and in myself too, I could not do anything unless the Lord would come and give me a hand. And that touched me a lot. And then I told him I was very busy. I had many things to do. I said, Father, but how is it possible? If God is calling me, why does he give me all these options? He said, but that's how God works. And somehow God gave me the grace on that day to say yes. And 2 days later, I was packing and going to the seminary. Was just in 2 days. So I told my family, I told the girlfriend that I was going to marry. I told my boss. I called England saying that I was not going anymore. I called the Ministry of Education in Brazil saying that I did not need the scholarship anymore.
Wow.
And my boss, well, the boss of the high school, he came to see me. And he said, Manuel, I heard you are going to a seminary. What happened? Did anything happen? Did they wash your brain or something? Listen, if you want to stay, we can pay you even $10,000 a month so that you'll be maybe a teacher in our school. Because third world countries like Brazil,
Yes.
it's different. I mean, rich people are very, very rich. They pay anything to have you exclusive for them, to working for them. And since I did a good job as a teacher, he said, no, let us offer him something substantial. And for a 26-year-old, I mean, $10,000 a month.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Was a lot. And that was me. Before I was already traveling, going to Europe 3 times a year, on vacation. And I mean, things were well, in a sense, but there was this emptiness. And
That time you still have plenty hair here.
plenty of hair. Now I lost my hair in the parish where I am now, in the church, because we have 5,000 people on Sundays.
Wow.
19 masses.
Wow.
In New Jersey.
New Jersey.
What city or town?
It's called Plainfield, and it's St. Mary's. It's probably the biggest parish in the state and one of the biggest in the whole country. I mean, we have a lot of work. We have 7 regular masses, but we have 12 more and sometimes even 18 for small groups. for the communities, because we have noticed that for the young people, to be in a mass full of people, they get lost. But if they are every Sunday or every Saturday night at the same mass with the same people that know them, it's just between 30 and 50 people, that helps them to get to know their faith and to feel loved by God, not to feel just like as a number. So our work with the youth is huge. Huge. We went to Portugal now and to see the Holy Father, and we brought 250 of them. They are a pain in the neck. I mean, teenagers, those who know teenagers, they are very difficult. But I remember how I was as a teenager. I said, God, who am I to judge them? I mean, they drive me crazy, yeah. I came to Palau because I needed to rest a little bit, because we were with them for 10 days and we could not sleep much. Taking care of them, they had their crisis. But I mean, I'm very, very grateful to the Lord. And as I said, I'm a priest. It was not my plan to become a priest, but God has given me a mission that's beyond my strength, and I'm very grateful for it. It has saved my life.
Wow. So Father Manuel said he was 26. What about you? I think somebody said, or you said you were 19 or something when you turned into a seminary in Guam.
I was 17.
17, huh?
To the seminary. Yep.
And what led to you before you turn in, before you said, okay, this is it, I'm gonna be,
Oh no, it wasn't a decisive action. It was ulterior motives. Someone said, "Oh, come to this vocational group." I said, "Okay." They have good food at the vocational group. I go. They play basketball afterwards. I go. So I went for other reasons, and then they said, "There's a vocational retreat in Italy. You should go." I said, "Yeah." They said vocational retreat. I heard European vacation. So I went with a small group of us guys, 8 of us who were sent to discern our vocation, and we made it a European trip, drinking every night. The night before they did this lottery for the different seminaries, because we're missionary priests, right? We went out drinking and we got, drunk doesn't even begin to describe. The other one I went with had alcohol poisoning. He couldn't even keep down water. He was throwing up. To say that we didn't have good intentions, every step of the way there was bad intentions. And because God is very humble, he accepts us like that. And so they said, "Are you willing to be a missionary anywhere?" And I said, "No. I'm willing to do a 1-year experience in Guam." And you give God just a little bit, though. This is how humble God is. He's willing to work with us as stubborn as we are. I was still holding on to my plans because I wasn't convinced yet that God only wanted good things for me. I thought God was trying to take things from me. I thought he was trying to take my youth. I thought he was trying to take my... I thought I was doing God a favor. For many years, I was convinced I was doing God a favor. And it wasn't after messing up many, many times, even in the seminary, in my studies, where I discovered, no, I don't have anything to offer God. I only have my sins. I'm terribly arrogant. I'm selfish. I'm lazy. I don't have much to offer. Just my sins. And that God took me with my sins, that was the first place I discovered, that was the first place I experienced being accepted with my poverty. Because everywhere else, I had to have something to offer. With my friends, I had to be funny. At school, I had to be smart. At home, I had to be responsible. At church, I had to be good. Right? But I saw that with God, I could be poor. In basketball, you have to be disciplined. You have to be in shape. You have to obey the code. Right? And I always had to do things to make other people love me. And I saw that God loved me even when I had only sins to offer. So it wasn't until many years later in the seminary that I discovered that God was really calling me. And the only reason why I stayed was because life never gave me a reason to leave. I was being treated very well. I was being loved as I was. I would, in the time in the seminary, the Lord helped me to see who I am, because I thought I was such a wonderful person, and I really saw in the seminary how much damage I did to my family, to people around me, all the people that I've used. I'm not proud of those things. I don't say it because I'm proud of it, but it's something that I've hidden for many years. But if God is able to make of me a priest, someone who is selfish, someone who's arrogant, someone who's lazy, someone who hurts people, if God can make me a priest, right? But being a priest is secondary. If God can take me from hell and give me a new life, yeah, it was.
Wow.
People say, many people tell my parents, well, my mom now, thank you, thank you for giving your son to the church. And people many times have told me, thank you for your sacrifice. I haven't sacrificed anything. I've sacrificed a life of sin. I've sacrificed a life of meaninglessness. Before that, I was living just for the weekends. I was living for the next paycheck. I was living just to have a good time. My life had no meaning. I was living only for myself. So what helped me in this journey of the priesthood was that every step of the way, God was there to pick me up when I fell on my face, and that I always had a community accompanying me. I have a community in Guam, I have a community in New Jersey of brothers and sisters who are normal people, married couples, young people, old people, who know my sins, who know my weaknesses, and they don't judge me, and they accompany me. They help me when I'm down, and they're there to celebrate with me when I'm up, right? In fact, on this trip, some brothers from my community in Guam accompanied me to share in the celebration. They've shared in all the sufferings, so it's they were also very happy to share in the celebrations. So.
When you went into the seminary, you did not know that you have a DNA of missionary work. You did not know that your great-grandfather, Indale Shurudim, was the first Palawan who went to Japan to be trained to be a priest before the war. You
I
did
had
not
no
know
idea.
that.
Nope, I had no idea.
Okay. And you did not know that your cousin or uncle became a priest, Father Wayne.
Yeah, I had no idea. I mean, yeah.
Okay. So when your experience with the seminary in Guam, I think I heard you saying that you guys went fishing while you were in seminary to feed yourself.
Yeah. In the seminary, we basically live on Providence. There was no fixed income, so we did what we could to sort of be self-sustaining. When we were in the seminary in Guam, it was a beachside property, which is another long story to get into. But if you look at the story, you can see that it was the will of God that we received that property for the formation of priests. But yeah, we would do farming, we would do fishing. We would the people who would cook and clean, they were missionaries they were older women. Most of them were widows who had left behind their retirement, left behind their grandchildren, left behind very comfortable lives to serve in the seminaries. And they served, most of them served by cooking, cleaning, doing administration. So there was this collaborative effort where the seminary lives on Providence and gratitude. The women who were helping us in the seminary were grateful because their families had been rebuilt. So yeah, the life of the seminary is Providence. We don't have employees. We don't have the same with the seminary in Guam and in New Jersey, and the Redemptorist Mater seminaries around the world operate in the same way.
Did you go fishing yourself?
I went swimming because I never caught anything.
Okay.
Father ASHTON and Father Manuel, I just have, I like it when you share about how the Lord mended your family. And I heard that you've been here a few years ago, Father Manuel. So if you can just share, because when you come from a very small island, there's always issues with what you mentioned. The Lord accepts you for who you are. But then we need to humble ourselves. We need to get rid of the stone heart that we have. As you mentioned, you were arrogant, you were this, you were that, but you were able to humble yourself and accept the Lord. And I truly believe that once you have surrendered yourself, the Holy Spirit will guide you. I truly believe in that. And so if you can share on, if we have listeners who have broken family or who have issues with chief title or assets, what experience can you share again with our listeners on how we can mend our family together and our clan? And as you know, Palau is a lot of people are Christians. I think 97% or 99.9%. But then it's so easy to talk about God, and it's so easy to say you're Christian, but deep down in your heart, it's your actions and what you do speaks for itself, speaks volumes. And so if you can, I know you're young, you're 31, but I know that you've been through a lot. I believe that our past makes us who we are today. So if you both can share so our listeners can hear your experience and maybe take it as a lesson and apply to them.
I don't know, just off the top of my head, you can only give someone what you've first received, right? Mm-hmm. If you ask me for fish and I don't have fish, as much as I would like to give it to you, I can't, right? Mm-hmm. So the same with love, the same with forgiveness. The thing is, all of us are looking to be loved. Mm-hmm. But if we don't have the experience of being loved as we are, with everything, right? With the good things and the bad things about us, if we don't have the experience of being loved by God, we cannot give love. We cannot give forgiveness. So the first thing then is to recognize that we have been loved by God, which is to believe that we are loved by God, but not because we're good. We are so convinced it is something that's like ingrained in our DNA. It's even ingrained in our culture, right? That in our culture, right, we always have to have something to offer. I was saying this in the masses yesterday. That many times we deceive ourselves. Many times we think we're really good people, and that we think we're good people who do evil sometimes, when it's actually the contrary. We are wicked people who do good sometimes. And if we do good, it's because of a grace of God. But I discovered that, it was a matter of, the Lord enlightening what I have in my heart. That in my heart, I am. Many people will not acknowledge it. It's a tough pill to swallow. It's not an easy thing to acknowledge, because it feels like a condemnation when you see the evil inside you. It's you feel condemned. And the good news, though, is that we're not condemned. Is that God has gone to the depths of our hell. He went to the depths of my hell, and He didn't condemn me, and He didn't leave me there. He loved me. The thing is for people to experience it in their guts, in their flesh. And when they experience that, when they receive that love, then they can give it. But there's no technique, there's no strategy for that. But there is a way. There's an itinerary of faith that Father MANOEL, our priesthood is the fruit of this experience, right? Many people have been saying, we need, can you be a priest here in Palau? Can you be a priest here? And I can very easily be here, and you can fill this island with priests, but it won't. But if the heart doesn't change, it's almost useless, right? To be the priests are important, but more than that is that there is in the church a way for normal people, families, youth, old people, for everybody to come in contact with the love of God. And it's once you discover you've been loved by God, you can reconcile. Because once you discover you've been loved by God, then what do I need a title for? Why do we fight so much for land, for titles, for money, for status, for recognition? We do it because we want to feel loved. right? The one who has the highest title gets the most respect, right? The higher title you have, the more respect, the more love you receive. Why are we so anxious to receive that? Well, because deep down we don't feel loved. Why are we so anxious for success? Why are we so anxious for money? Well, because we think if we have success and money, people will love us. But it's because deep down we don't feel loved. And there's nothing more terrifying than being unloved. So how to remedy all of those things? Titles, conflict, resentment. Those are all symptoms of a deeper problem, a problem of our heart. And because the problem is inside, we cannot find the solution outside with a technique or a method. The Lord has to change the heart. And He's changed our hearts. The Lord is doing this work for us, it has been through the church, through this charism called for us, it's been through the neo-catechumenal way. I don't know if there was something else said.
Yeah, I heard your sermon yesterday. You used the term resentment. You know, that's is this what you're talking about? Like, you know, I've heard some people refer to those as demons in you. You know, so you know, Father, what's your take on this discussion?
I would say that my experience comes from these small communities. Without an itinerary of faith, I cannot do anything. First of all, I need to discover who I am. Because as he was saying, we think very highly about ourselves, and somehow, if I do not have this title, if I do not have this job, if I do not have this career, because what I wanted in life, for instance, personally, was to be a teacher in the university, because a teacher in the university in Brasilia, where I grew up, I mean, people would look at them and say, oh, this is my teacher, look at his title, he's a PhD. And the only thing I can say is that what has worked for me and that what is working for the people in my parish. In my church, at St. Mary's, we have people that go to Mass every Sunday, which is okay. They go. I do not know them much, but we have small groups of communities that they are together twice or 3 times a week. And little by little, they start to know each other. They start to know their sins. They start to know their sufferings. And they start to experience that they are loved, not because of their qualities, but they are loved exactly because of their defects. That's how the Lord Jesus Christ has loved them. And this little by little, after years of preparation, they start to somehow love a little bit, forgive. I have a situation, for instance, of a guy that went to the US, and he was working there for 20 years. Illegal. Sending money to Brazil to buy a farm, to buy properties, because he said, after a while, I'm going to go back to Brazil and I'm going to enjoy life. And imagine waking up at 4 a.m. every day to work, and his brother-in-law was the one managing the money over there. And he would send him pictures of, oh, this is the property we bought, this is what you have, this is how much cattle we have here in this farm. But it was all fake. The brother-in-law was traveling to Europe, was enjoying life with his money. All of a sudden, he discovered that he had nothing. No. And he called me, said, Father Manuel, what should I do? Because 20 years working, and I lost everything. And then, and he was in anguish, because he was coming to the meetings that we were having, and somehow he received some good news, because we have told them money is trash. Because of money, people fight, they kill each other. Because he said, for me, it's very easy to hire someone in Brazil to kill this guy. Very easy. And he wanted to do this. And then I told him, said, you want me to tell you, yeah, go ahead? No. I said, if you want to be happy, you need to forgive him. Yeah. And he said, this is impossible. I said, I know it is impossible. And we never demanded from him to do it. Never. But I said, listen, I can promise you, if you come to these meetings that we are doing in the little community, little by little, God is going to do this work. And I see children forgiving their parents, husbands forgiving their wives, wives forgiving their husbands, not because they are good, but because they are part of an itinerary of faith that is nourishing them. Because without being nourished, I cannot do much. Like in New Jersey, I mean, here you never have cold weather, right? But imagine that is, I mean, here you use Fahrenheit or Celsius?
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit. But imagine that is 20 degrees below zero outside. Cold, cold, cold. And then I see somebody through my window, you know, all bundled up. He's there. And then I go outside, I say, listen, take off your jacket and everything. He's not going to do it. Even if I beat him up, take them off. He's not going to do it. But if I bring him inside, and there is heating inside, little by little, without anybody telling him, he's going to take them off. Because he feels, you know, the warmth. He feels this love. And this is the same thing with us. When I discover that God loves me the way I am, that I receive this warmth, then I'm able to forgive. Something that is impossible to do. Unless, and I have experienced this in my life. I mean, I have had a couple of instances in my life as a priest and before in which people told lies about me that it was not true. I mean, and I was angry at them. I said, how is it possible? I'm here giving up my life and you are spreading these rumors, I mean, these lies about me, and it's not true. And then through the church, through this itinerary of faith, because when we speak about these small communities, we are part of one too. Because I cannot sustain, I would not last as a priest, not even 5 years, without the help of my community. I mean, the regular people that walk with me in this itinerary of faith. So, little by little, through this itinerary of faith, God gave me the grace to forgive, to be in peace, to see that person, to look at them in the face, the one that somehow betrayed me, and that there is no resentment. Why? Because God exists. So when I see, I was telling people yesterday, yeah, I came to Palau 7 years ago. It's beautiful. Anytime now that I go to a beach somewhere, people say, oh, is this beautiful? I compare with Palau, with Rock. I say, listen, yeah, it's beautiful, but you should go to Palau and see. So I'm here, I see that it's very nice. I mean, there are many tourists, but I know wherever I go that people have deep sufferings.
Yes.
And in an island, there is need of the evangelization, of the announcement of the good news, but seriously. So this is it's something that is already present here in Palau. We hope, with the grace of God, that it may grow, because it has the potential to help a lot of people.
Yes.
Can you explain, I mean, this community group, what's the name? You use the word, how do you call that?
It's called the Neo-Catechumenal Way. It's as Father Manuel was saying, an itinerary. It's a way to rediscover.
They've been to Palau, right? I mean, some years ago. Or?
Yeah, I'm getting the timeline mixed up now, but definitely it's the catechists who have offered, because we offer, right, this help in the church for the last few years.
Sorry,
6 years I was heard.
6 years.
Yeah, I heard about it that some kind of a sect, Catholic sect, will kind of take the little different route and really negative from some of the devout Catholics. So they were telling me there's a group, I think a couple, and then they was really, I said what what is it? So is this the same group?
Yeah, that's the problem, because when the parable in the gospel of the prodigal son.
Yes.
there are two sons, and the younger son says, "Father, give me my share of the inheritance, and I'm gonna go." And he went. He spent his life and with prostitutes, and then when he had no money, and he was hungry, and he was working for this guy that would not give him not even enough to eat, he said, "But how many employees my father has, and I'm here, hungry." So he decides to go back. When he goes back, he wanted just to be an employee. But for his surprise, he was received by the father as a son. The father gave him the robe, of a son, the ring, and showed him his love. So, but the older son was angry. He could not understand this. So sometimes in the church it happens that those who are there inside, for many reasons, we don't judge them. They don't see the need. But there is a need, because where are the youth, right?
Yes.
And then if there is a charism in the church that can call the youth, that can help them, that can change the life, that can save the life of many people. And yes, there are people that calls us a sect, but we are not. We're accepted by the church. The Vatican with the Pope, we have our statutes. It's recognized.
What's the name again?
Neocatechumenal way.
Neocatechumenal way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because, and we can give you all the reasons, right?
Yeah, it's in Guam, right?
It's around the world, but yeah, it's in Guam, it's in the United States, it's in New Jersey where we are, and it's also present in Palau. But the last 5 popes have given their seal of approval over this way. It's not another group. It's not a sect. It is an itinerary of faith. But we can give you all the reasons. We can tell you to look at the fruits, because from this, from the Neo-Catechumenal way, are our vocations. In Father Manuel's parish in New Jersey, because of the Neo-Catechumenal way, numerous vocations have come.
We have, imagine, in my church, we have 13 boys in the seminary to become a priest.
Wow.
Right now. 13. And then you cannot find many parishes in the world that have this.
Yeah.
Why? Because we accompany them. This itinerary of faith is something very powerful and strong. Of course, there are difficulties. If you look at a couple that has a teenager child that has difficulties and troubles, and then maybe there is one that behaves a little better, right? So the couple needs to give a little bit of attention to the troublemaker to help him. So this itinerary of faith requires, a little bit of the parish, a little bit of patience, but it gives fruits.
I always wonder why we Catholics in Palau, it's so hard to find priests now, and very few kids get into it, and I'm wondering, because we have Palau Evangelical Church, it's the Protestant sect here. They just grew out of. They're so, like in my village, there were practically none. There were few when I was growing up. Now they almost have, and they have a church.
Yeah, because some of the Catholics have moved out of the church and become Protestants. I used to be a Catholic, and now I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And so I think what I like about what you shared is forgiveness, because I was raped, I was molested, I was sexually abused, but I was able to hold the hand of the man who raped me almost 25 years ago. And I held him with 2 hands, and I said, I truly have forgiven you from my heart. And I think Father Manuel, I'm one of the few who can actually understand the true meaning of inner forgiveness. Once you learn how to forgive somebody, it's like you give up your right to hurt somebody who has hurt you. And it has changed my life. So people think, oh, I'm very blunt, I'm very this, I'm very that, but I'm very vocal. But deep down inside, I empathize with people. And so I have forgiven the man who molested and sexually abused me and the man who raped me. And when I see him, I talk to him. When he was sick, I sent some food with his wife. And I truly believe that when you forgive, it has to come from the root of your heart to actually forgive. It's so easy to say, I have forgiven you, but deep down inside, if you haven't truly forgiven, then, like you said, you cannot find the power of love that you can give. And so I truly, you're speaking and I truly understand where you're coming from. I don't know if you met Father Hazel. We went to lunch. He's a Jesuit priest in Chuk, and he's done studies within the Pacific about suicide. And we had a lunch, and I was telling him that, I was swimming, and when I had forgiven the man who hurt me, I was swimming and I said, God works in mysterious ways. And he goes, why? And I go, when you swim and you look at the ceiling of the ocean, what part of your body can you see? And Father Hazel looked at me and said, what are you talking about? And I said, when you go underwater and you swim and you go like this, the only part of your body when you're swimming, you can only see the two wrists of your hands. At the ceiling of the water, it's like a mirror. And I said, God works in amazing and mysterious ways. And, we always see his hand like this. You have to pray, you have to forgive, you have to share. Because I truly believe that when your hands are stiff and closed, it's hard for blessings to come your way. But if it's open and you're giving, everything flows like a river. It just seeps through the rock. So I just wanted to share, that.
I think that we have a serious crisis here in the Catholic Church about the priest. As you probably know, all our priests have died off, including your uncle or your cousin. So, and John Paul last year, and then we have Father Raskus sick. We have only one who's in training in Fiji. So this situation, how do we we deal with it? Because we need guidance. We need people when we go to mass on Sunday or we see them when we have problems. So enlighten us and also give us way forward in our lives. So, because I see the Protestant church, they just ordained like maybe over 10 deacons last month. Like even my, my relatives and my friends, all of a sudden I see them preaching. I said, what the heck? How did you become a preacher? We were in school, we did not know anything. How can you preach the Bible? But this is the thing, like, it's kind of, you go to church on Sunday for 1 hour, you're out, your life is different, How do we get even our church, to have our young people
to bring
get into
people to the church?
To the
and
church,
how can we inspire them? Because I think for me, it becomes routine. And they say the Bible verse, they don't really they don't apply it to everyday life. And then there's some people who I know that said, oh, I left the church because there's too much gossip. And so most of them became Protestant. So I've been hearing a lot of good messages from people who attended your service at the Sacred Hearts and at NGIRMANG. And I think, and I hope that maybe once in a while, Moses, that maybe new priests should maybe come and rotate. So it's something different, something new. And they really liked your message yesterday, what you shared about resentment and forgiveness. And I think, like you mentioned, you only been here 7 years ago, you came back and you see a lot of people, you love Palau, but, like I told the few doctors, I said, obesity in Palau is not a problem. What the problem is in here. People are suffering in their own way and they cannot share, they cannot open up. And so what they do, they use food to satisfy them, to love them, as you mentioned. So going back to, yeah.
The only thing I can say is that young people, well, in general people, but especially the youth, what appeals to them is authenticity and radicality. So when you have people in church, right, who say, my son, my daughter, you need to love God, go to church. Church is important, God is important. And that's something that we say with our words, right? But as my Uncle Moses was saying, but then on the other hand, right, that's what you hear on Sunday for 1 hour. That's like a parenthesis. But then we have to go back to real life, right? Yeah, my son loved God on Sunday. But then on Monday, what's important is what? Is school, is work, is making money, is your image, is everything else, right? So what also helped me in my vocation was I saw that what my parents said matched the way they lived, right? Because there were difficult decisions that they had to make when it came to matters of faith. For example, I was on the basketball team, and I was a very important. Well, I had a very important role on the team, right? The playoff games are on Saturday nights. Saturday night is when I go to church. Is when my family goes to church, and I beg them, "Can I skip church? I will go to church on Sunday." Right? I said, it's not a sin to play basketball. Anyway, I gave all the reasons in the book. I did everything I could I knew my parents' sins, and I would throw it in their face. I threw their weaknesses in their face. I said, but why should I listen to you when you can't even afford my school? I'm the one who's... And in front of this onslaught of accusations and violence, my parents said, "My son, I'm sorry. Our mission is to bring you to heaven. The most important thing is Jesus Christ." I saw in that moment that my parents loved God more than me, and that my parents loved God more than success, and my parents loved God more than school, more than sport. It hurt them, I know, because I made my parents cry. Many times I brought my parents to tears, right?
And you were the oldest.
I'm the oldest, yeah. And they didn't compromise. The thing that impressed me the most was that my parents never compromised, even when it hurt them. I saw that what they said matched and what they did matched. And many times kids look at their parents and they say, my parents tell me to love God, but the thing that they focus most on is my grades or is work or money or appearance or title or something else, right? So when kids how do you bring the youth back? By renewing the family. How do you get priests? How do you get new vocations? By renewing the family. But how do you renew the family? It goes back to what we were saying. We cannot do it by ourselves. What gave my parents strength was that they had a community that supported them. They had a community of brothers and sisters who helped them, and that community, that experience that they had was also what rebuilt their marriage. So they had a solid foundation that when sufferings came our way, they had a solid foundation that helped them to not withstand the suffering, but enter into suffering, because we don't enter into suffering alone. It's one thing to suffer with Jesus Christ, and it's a very different thing to suffer without Jesus Christ. And when you have the experience, when you know that God is with you in the suffering, it doesn't touch you. It hurts a little, but it doesn't touch you. So that's why, as a young person, because I was there from when I was 13, I was ordained a priest at I entered the seminary at 17, right? I had my own community at 13, entered the seminary at 17, and you can say I wasted all my 20s, right? The prime of my life, right? You can say, in the seminary, but it wasn't a waste. And that wasn't because of effort. I wasn't like clenching my fists to get through it. No, it was
How many years did you go through the training to be a priest?
12 and a half years. That's not normal. 12 and a half years because I'm very stubborn. And it took a lot of falling on because the academics, I was done very quickly. I have the 2 degrees, right? From the academics were not a problem. The problem was the human formation was healing my heart, right? I couldn't possibly be out in the field if the Lord didn't first heal my heart. But how, to answer this question of how do you get priests, how do you get young people back in the church, is through rebuilding the families. And we've seen very few, not very few, we will be very blunt. I only know one way that rebuilds families. In a serious way, though, because it's an ongoing formation that accompanies, right? It's something that accompanied my parents when they were on the verge of divorce. It's something that accompanied my parents when they had to deal with my rebelliousness. It's something that accompanied my parents through the sickness and eventual death of my father. And it's something that accompanies my mother now as a widow, right? So, yeah, it's something I've seen that is good for that accompanies in every event of life, right? The good and the bad, right?
What kind of order are you in? You're in the same order of priesthood?
Yes. We are diocesan.
Diocesan.
Yeah.
That's the same with our Father Rusk.
Yep.
Yeah, same thing.
I thought you were Capuchin.
No, we are diocesan missionary priests. So we were ordained in New Jersey and Newark. So we are priests for Newark, but the bishop knows that at any moment we are ready to go anywhere. Yeah, to have a missionary spirit.
So you can come to serve in Palau, right?
I could.
Do you know that NGIRMANG produced the most priests in Palau? I call it NGIRMANG, your village, where the church is, cradle of Catholicism in Palau. Because since if you come, so it's you and your uncle, and then Father Rusk and Father Felix. Yeah, and so they're like, they're about what 4 out of 7 that we become priests, which is. So how do we get you? I mean, do we need to petition your bishop and?
Yeah, your bishop can write a letter, a request asking my bishop, but again, it's not a solution though. You know what I mean? Like as not even that. It's you can bring me here, but if there's no way of conversion,
well,
it doesn't make it. It doesn't matter.
But as you know from yesterday and your visit here, you probably have the most relatives. Yesterday at the church, but over 200 people, about 100 of them are your relatives on both sides of the family. So,
right.
I mean, that can be a real influence making change here, because we really need, and especially this group, you kind of excite me on this group that you're talking about, you know. So I'm going to look into it, and, you know, it's something that's kind of, thanks a lot. We're coming to an end, and I know.
Before we go to an end, I just have one last question to you both. How can you envision the role of the church with technology? Because, you know, in the past, you would bring your Bible to Bible school. You would, you know, I used to attend church at, you know, Tumuni. Me and your parents, or your father and your auntie Maylin them. So with technology, now when you're in church, people no longer carry their Bible, they just use their phone. And so I just, from your perspective, who've been preaching to 5,000 people in church every Sunday with 17 masses, I just wanted your...
People approach me all the time asking, say, Father, why don't your parish, why your parish doesn't have a mass on YouTube, online? I said, because it doesn't work. It may help a little bit. Someone may be sick and listen to a message. But what I see in my parish, that what really makes the difference is that when, like for instance, we go door by door, knocking at the doors, the human contact is very important. During the time of COVID, technology helped a little bit, and people tried to push, but it's not the solution. You can use it, you know, for communication, to send a message here, but we cannot forget that the main way to evangelize, to announce the good news, is one by one. Because I was in contact with a gentleman in my parish, one of the parishioners, older parishioners. I mean, he was 60, son of older parishioners, single, and I would call him and during the pandemic, how are you doing? I'm fine. Do you need anything? No, Father Manuel, I'm really okay. And then 9 months later, he calls me, I'm in the hospital. I say, what happened? I have a tumor. He had a tumor here, big like this, and another one in the leg. I said, how is it possible that you did not say anything? No, I was afraid of the virus. And he lasted just a week. Because when he went to the hospital, it was too late. And I believed him. And then I said, man, I should have gone to visit him personally. Because so technology is very, it deceives you. I may be talking to you over the Zoom, over the internet, and you say, oh, I'm okay. And it doesn't work. Listen, we have a 14-year-old in my church, a girl, very smart. She speaks Italian, she speaks Spanish, she speaks Portuguese, and she speaks English. Wow. I said, of course, she speaks Spanish because her parents are from Mexico. And English because she lives in the US. But how is it possible that you speak Portuguese like me? I'm Brazilian. How is it possible that you speak Italian? Father, I have friends all over. Wow. And she's depressed. She says, I have friends in Italy, I have friends in Spain, I have friends in Mexico, I have friends in Argentina, I have friends in Brazil, I have friends in Portugal. That's why I learned it. She's so clever, but she tells me, I have no friends here in our town. I have no friends. So this girl, everything in her life is virtual. So, but if we don't have this personal touch, so I personally think, technology deceives a lot. There are many people, I was talking to a gentleman yesterday who said, no, because we need an app, for this and for that. It's okay. Sometimes I don't carry my Bible. I carry in the phone. I have the prayers that I need to say, but it cannot substitute for it. We can never forget that the way to announce the good news is door by door. Is talking like we are here. This connection. So it's very dangerous. There are good things, but we cannot think that this is the solution because it's not.
I've seen very convenient things with technology, with cell phones, right? But it also delays and it stunts the personal growth or like how to relate with people. I was a missionary during the COVID period in Nebraska, and I saw the effects that it had on the kids. They didn't know how to relate with each other. We went on a pilgrimage to Israel. What was it, last year? Yeah, in 20. Yeah. We went last year to Israel, and I took 2 buses of kids, about 100 kids, aged 13 to 25. And the ones that suffered the most through the COVID years, right? The teenagers that had to go sort of through high school during the COVID time, they didn't know how to relate with each other. They couldn't look you in the eye. So they became they became extremely insecure, right? Because if all the relations happen through a screen, right? The screen provides a kind of filter. It provides a kind of not a filter, but a security where it's like you're not even being, if somebody rejects you, you're not even being rejected by a person, right? But if I have personal contact with you, the odds, the possibility of you rejecting me, there's nothing to stop that, right? So I'm not really explaining it well, but that it almost handicapped children, right? The technology in terms of relationships, that kids don't know how to relate with each other, and they become extremely anxious and insecure. The thing that I've seen that technology has contributed greatly to, especially with the young people, and as a teenager, you're trying to figure yourself out. You know, as a teenager, you don't even know what kind of pants you want to wear in the morning, right? You're trying to, there's a lot of things you're trying to figure out. And if all your relations happen over a screen, when you're actually with other people, you become deeply, deeply insecure, anxious, and eventually it leads to depression, which is why you see so many teenagers. Why don't, this is 2023, we are experiencing tremendous prosperity, right? There's a lot of prosperity right across the board in the world, right? So why are kids so insecure? They have everything, right? The kids today have things that we didn't have when we were children, right? So why are they so anxious? If they have so much stuff, if they have so much comfort, why are they so anxious? The cell phone stuff contributes to it. There's a identity crisis. We have there's a tremendous growth in technology, but our personality growth doesn't match that. And when kids don't know who they are, they look for validation from everybody else. The thing is, who will give us validation? It becomes very unhealthy and very confusing. And the role of the church in that is to help kids discover that their identity is given to them by God, that they are children of God, that they are loved as they are, right? Which happens, as Father Manuel was saying, in a personal way.
There's in our program we get calls, and and then we'll wrap up because all these topics we're discussing, man. I mean, we're gonna take like a whole month sitting here. So we've touched on something this really heavy. So can we just take one call and then we summarize the closing? Yeah.
Caller on the air.
Oi, pamanu sulang adrawi radio dul. ULUDONG de komiskina pe allen tingela ali mo mral gile de loger tigal perul babrel guest gile al tutae e chenifer ka UMANG irmang ka UMANG chenifer sel bangara internet de mesra blura Israel era ang arnya makamara adrongalela ay gel tri leader ngar al sela Israel sel legal banga internet de mesra gal vet iglesian mulmutra katolik ma protestant mal adra sel bomes la iglesia amnamo abuse ar member la iglesia ngaya sexuality member la internet la iglesia era arfils ya balura India amnama se sa gotol botto la iglesia ar cristiano el between problem ar budus ar cristiano selbo mese como gestirgan was selbo mesa wa internet ma umrura blul adr al alsis ya iglesia vai do mese ning namo gora partra business edem botto gara al iglesia el alsis namo mraw e mergo ya vai pegengela alida di kakal mraw sel ngara al ukwa se ko teach around the world bomer ga pegengela ruba ga blul ad mo masuma sumabur abay do mese el alsis em vai verngarengela abay klora arun sa akkat tingela alit dilin masum oktabu rabullah kamwa opinion til alterung el gaya issue ngara ay internet smart problem al sins ay tool population rabullah asina ma India ay imong communist ay imong macro democratic ay India ko population nila asina يجي تجينا العديد عمال مرين المرتع السلع يجي رول بلوما إسرائيل كم سلام أمريكا.
Let me try to summarize. I mean, this guy is a philosopher sitting in the hills of Aimelig, and he's handicapped, so he just read the Bible and the Constitution all the time. Listen, basically, he says in the Israel, the Middle East, there are three religions fighting, and then he goes that. You see like in he said India, but actually it's Pakistan, where the churches, Christian churches are being burned down. And then he says like, China is communist country, and then India is democratic country, but they have religious group there. So like, instead of getting the religion, have contrived people to fight each other. So I mean, so what's going on? it seems the religious groups and the people through religion now, fighting, causing harm and violence and all this. So, what's the situation now? It's like getting worse. The world situation is getting worse now than before, with the infighting of the religious organizations.
Yeah, the problem is that we can never forget that sin exists. Without knowing the love of God, we always fight. I was talking to a gentleman in my close to my parish. He was telling me, but why do you baptize babies, right? Said we baptize babies, baptism is not like a membership to a religion. We baptize babies because of the original sin. And then he's saying, but you are telling me that babies have sin? Well, babies have not done a sin, but original sin exists. And then I asked him, when did your children started to fight, to pull the hair of each other, to bite each other? When they were 2, when they were 15, when they were 20? And he was like, when they were 2. We are born with this malfunction, we can say, which is original sin. Unless God comes and heals us, there is always fight. So even within the church, within different religions, we are sinners, we fight. And we need conversion every day. So it's a problem that we can discuss. We can stay here forever, but we cannot take for that. This is one of the problems. When people go to church, we think that they have faith, and it's not so.
Yes, so true.
We cannot take it for granted. Faith is something that needs to be nourished, that needs to grow. That's why we need an itinerary of faith. And I never get scandalized when I see a fight in the church or within religions. I know that there are poor sinners that need conversion, that they need the love of God.
So that means when you see this, that means they're still searching for the love of God. And so when they haven't found it yet, they can go to church for a long time. But they're still searching for it. We can say that. Yeah,
and the problem is that when people go to church like me, when I used to go, I used to listen the priest saying, God is love. And in my mind, it was translated into, you have to try harder. That's all I mean. And I tried to do everything on my effort. And then when I realized that it was something free, it was a free gift from God, the forgiveness, this new spirit. That's when things started to change. That's when I started to know myself, and I started to be patient with the others, not because I'm good, but because God gave me a little bit of the grace. So there is this thing that religion means to behave better. Yeah, you can try, but then there is a moment in which people cross this, the line, and then we react. It's Christianity is completely different. It's a free gift from God that really saves me from hell. And when I discover this, then it's possible to dialogue and to talk, but knowing always that the other one is going to come against you. The Lord Jesus Christ said, you are going to be persecuted. If we are faithful to our to Christianity, we are going to be persecuted because the world does not like Christianity.
So just with the question about like religious conflict, it implies almost that all the religions are on the same like level, right? Or like are all equal, and it's if by religion we mean some way to get to God, to know God, right? Yeah, you don't even need religion to know God. You can use whatever, logic, reason to know God, right? But as Father Manuel was saying, Christianity is a radically different thing. It's an encounter with the person, with Jesus Christ, right? And it's to have His Spirit, eternal life inside you. If you have eternal life inside you, you don't fight. We follow the Master. If Christ is our Master, where did He finish? On the cross, giving His life for His enemies. If every Christian, every Catholic is called to martyrdom, we are called to give our life for our enemies. Our enemies are not the ones in the Middle East. Our enemy is our neighbor. It's, as Father Manuel was saying, the brother-in-law who cheats you, the one who abuses you. It's the one who steals from you, the one who cheats you, the one who humiliates you. Christianity is to love the enemy. The other religions don't preach this. And it's not preached as as Father Manuel was saying, something we have to do. I say that God wants to give us the grace to love our enemies, and we think I'm saying, oh, I need to be good. Okay, after this show, I'm going to try harder and be good. No, we can't do it. We need a new nature. That new nature is a free gift, as Father Manuel was saying, given by Jesus Christ, but where God takes the initiative. God takes the first step towards us, right? Which is why it's whatever, right? It might ruffle feathers, but that's why Christianity, Catholicism is different from the others, right? It's like in all religions, can we reach God? Yes. But Christianity is not about reaching God. It's not about us reaching God. Christianity is Jesus Christ coming to us to give us a new nature so that we can love our enemies, which is something impossible for us.
Wow, that's a nice way of putting it.
You know, I'm listening, and then my mind is going through somersault, you know.
Because we're used to I'm a Christian, but the way you explain it, how
it's
Jesus
different,
comes
you know,
to us, in us, to be able to forgive, to love. Wow.
You know, Brother ASHTON and Brother Manuel, I entered seminary in Hawaii when I was 17 years old after high school, because I studied to be a priest. 6 months, I was out. Now I'm 73 years old and I'm saying, man, if I had met you or get into this discussion, I'll be back. If I were to repeat my life, I'll be back to the priesthood, because it's kind of, you've really kind of bring me to a different level of
I think
thoughts.
that's why you have a lot of people coming to your churches,
and it's,
because you put a lot of things into perspective. I mean, I'm born and raised a Catholic, but I've never heard anything like what you both have shared.
And
so,
I used to serve as a high school student in Xavier High School in Chuk. I was one of the holiest one, and I served the bishop. I served the bishop. I mean, in fact, the bishop says mass by himself, and the holy student, holiest will go and serve. So I served him for 6 months, and then, but the reason why I stopped, because I look at the wine and I watch him when he drink the wine and then he leave, and then he turns around and finish the mass. So I kind of was curious. So I take it and I drink it, and then I made a mistake one time that the timeline was screwed up. So I was like this, and then he turned around and said, "Go and push, the mass is over." And then I was having the, and I said, "No way, man!" So I stopped. I told the principal, I said, "I confess, I'm not going to serve the bishop anymore." And I guess I was going downhill. I was
until then he's been downhill.
No, I got a message from up there that I don't belong there, so I better go into secular life. But
nobody's changed. Look at his cross. He's always wearing his cross.
This is my guardian, Anyway, here is my, honestly, I believe now that this earth, this is hell. And when we die, we all go to heaven. I mean, because there's no pain, there's nothing, because your physical body is gone, so it's just your spirit. So cannot be burned. Fire cannot burn spirit. So I've been thinking about this, because I was, I get confused. I go to church and and one of my my auntie says, "How can you receive communion on Sunday when you are married to a Seventh-day Adventist and you're not married in church?" Maybe it's a big, so I kind of feel guilty about it. But I said, well, I mean, my relationship is with him, with the men upstairs. So, if I receive his blood or his body, it's okay. And I know this is bread. This is a symbol. It's not real. It's not real body. But it's a symbol.
Well, that we can talk on it at a later time.
Okay. Anyway, we're coming to an end, and I see the time. So I give you the closing, words of wisdom, and also, then you'll be the final. Then we'll close
I would say I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here with you, and that you are going to be in my prayers, because I know that the mission of the church is all over, that wherever we go, this is the most important thing. I may have learned that every person has the right to know the truth and to know that Christ loves them, that it's possible to forgive, and every person has the right to have this, this option to be happy and be a Christian and to love the other the way Jesus Christ did. And this is
And not have that emptiness within you.
the emptiness. And then as you said, we become free when we forgive.
Yeah. Okay, Brother ASHTON.
Thank everyone for having me here. I also want to say thank you to Iti because I was very hesitant. I will be very sincere, I did not want to do any sort of publicity thing. But then, I don't know, after a few days here, it was I'm not just coming on vacation to see my family. I'm also a priest now, right? And it's not my job. It's who I am. It's part of my identity. And part of my mission as a priest, but not just a priest, as a Christian, right, it would be a terrible waste to come to Palau without announcing Jesus Christ, without announcing what God has done in my life, right? And so we simply give you what we've received. It's not that Father Manuel and I are better than anyone or holier than anyone. We're really not. We simply have shared a little bit with you what we've received. We've received a lot from the Lord. And the only thing we can do, the only way we can show our gratitude for the hospitality and everything that's been given to us, is to give you what we've received, which has been an encounter with Jesus Christ. So I'm grateful, actually, at the end, that if this talk show, this radio show, has been an opportunity for people to listen, to have some hope today, for us it's enough. I'm very happy to have been here. And as Father Manuel was saying, you will all be in my prayers.
And before we end, if there's Palans in New Jersey who want to come to your church or visiting, where's your church at?
Yeah, my church is in a town called Plainfield. It's 20 miles west of Newark Airport.
Newark Airport.
So it's called St. Mary's. If you Google St. Mary's, Plainfield, New Jersey, you'll find me.
Okay. Well,
You're there also.
No, I'm not there, but it's better if you go to his church.
Where are you at?
My parish is St. John the Evangelist in Bergenfield. So yeah, if you
and
Google
you're
that, you'll find
under
us.
the same bishop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we write or petition your bishop, you're going to support us to bring our countrymen back.
No, maybe we'll bring him to Ngaramloy. I don't know if you've seen that church in Ngaramloy. It's a big church. It oversees the mountain in Babaldao, and there's no priest there. But once in a while, sometimes when there's no priest that come, the ladies would just gather and pray. And they have a small house on the side. So
So
Mada malungil almutal malungil tutal mergi derokui ko malmasaw lagi ayamar el mlodia ki moliu da tigingi ra ki olngi tulwase polorar tiara radio TV e pol sab elangal gi wang el loyiu da igal tigingi rengora mal mlongi la el du mangora mlodia halsua del interrupt ta el dari de maigel guk mlo sab edel el mga du urtil girid matil guk mne sab rijer e ho mal masaw rogui adios lol molol adios lol mol lo maknal tanga tergi de rogui matial belwa. Thank you so much.
Eo marang moula mayop au ngil madangali arngul belau iseyau ul akmul mogon